Hey, what's up, everyone? This is your friend and host, PCJ, the Pop Culture Junkie. I want to share with y'all a really awesome collaboration I got to be a part of recently. We have a local Houston area podcast called A Thing, and they invited me on to collaborate on a recap video. Now, A Thing is a local Houston area podcast where they review topics in pop culture, headline news. They cover film and movie reviews and so many other things, and that's why they call themselves A Thing, because they're doing a thing. And recently I got to do a thing with them, and we talked Stranger Things. We talked about the entire first season. So we got a full recap video with the folks at A Thing, including yours truly, PCJ, the Pop Culture Junkie, where we recap the entire first season. We're getting ready for the third season, which is right around the corner. But first, we got to start from the very beginning, and we're going to talk about the entire first season of Stranger Things, sharing the entire series recap. So, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the show, we're going to spoil a lot. But we talk about the entire episodes of the whole first season, and then on top of that, sharing our thoughts and opinions and reviews on where we're going from here. So listen in, check out the links below of the description of the video, and you can check out all the links to listen to more podcasts from A Thing. You don't want to miss out. Great entertainment, so make sure you check them out. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoy the show, and make sure you leave some comments below. So let's get to talking about some Stranger Things. Here we go.
We're doing a Stranger Thing!
Woo!
I'm so excited. Especially because we have a special guest with us today. Don't we, Corey?
We do. We do, Nancy. We have with us today the one and only Pop Culture Junkie.
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me on here.
Mr. PB&J. Oh, I'm so excited that you're coming on today.
Hey, I'm here to talk about Strange, because it's awesome.
Strange the Thing, not Strange the Doctor, though.
No, not today, no.
Yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah.
Teasers.
Panic. So, where do we want to start?
Well, yeah, so we're here to talk about Stranger Things. I finally watched season 1, and I guess we're going to go through and break it down kind of episode by episode.
Yes. But I want everyone to know that when he says he just watched it,
I finished it last night.
Thing, he is so late to this boat.
In my defense, I didn't care. And in my defense, still watching this, I watched it more of the eye of someone watching it as a chore for something he's doing versus something to enjoy. It's not my typical show. I'm not a big horror fan as it is. I prefer more campy things, more comedy, more action-oriented things. That being said, overall, I did enjoy what I saw, and it's very enjoyable, and I'm looking forward, story-wise, to seeing where Season 2 takes it, to see if it becomes less tropey, in my opinion. But we'll get into where I feel about it. Let's start with Episode 1. In this episode, you get introduced to everybody, your main cast of boys. You get introduced to you playing a D&D game. Second edition, by the way. Second edition.
Just throwing that little tidbit of knowledge out there.
I dare you to play second edition.
I can barely handle 5th edition, all right? I know my weaknesses. So
So we get introduced to our cast of boys here. And yeah, I mean, it's set, what is it, supposed to be 1983?
Mm-hmm. Yep. 1983, November 6, 1983 it starts off, yeah.
Wow. Before I was alive.
Well, the sweater game is on point for the 80s, you know, with the collars outside the sweaters. And I will say, like, first impressions of the first episode, like, watching it, because I enjoy the 80s, even though I am not a product of the 80s by any means. But I love the aesthetic. So to see, like, in my opinion, like, everything that I know of it, like, as, like, a visual standpoint, was on point.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I felt immersed in the 80s as soon as the episode starts with the way the kids are playing the board games. They're riding their bikes home at night. You get the first view of the school. I mean, everything, it just felt really relatable for me. I did grow up in the 80s, so yeah, it was very relatable.
And that's actually one of the things I was going to ask was, for you as someone who did experience this growing up in the 80s, was it pretty much what you would expect it to do to replicate what it could?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the school you see later on, whenever they're going to the school the next morning, I went to a couple of elementary schools that looked exactly like this one. So it was just like, bringing me back to my childhood. So, and then on top of that, like Nancy mentioned, the clothing and then the music. I mean, they made sure to bring in all the elements to make you really feel like you're in the 80s.
Oh, the music's so good, though. I love 80s music. Like, it's so good.
80s were a time for music, I will give it that.
Yes.
Everything was happy and uplifting, and then you hit the 90s and grunge took over.
Grunge.
Yeah.
But back to the beginning side of episode 1 here. You got your boys around the table. So you get introduced to Mike, Lucas, Dustin, and Will.
Dustin, he's my boy.
And unassumingly looking at it as the show sets up in this episode, you don't expect it to take where it goes to it. You think it's just a show about the boys playing games being boys.
Or even, like, delving into, like, their imaginations a little bit. Like, but nope. As soon as Will, leaves after his fateful dice roll, which I think was, like, a cool little, like, nod of,
My favorite thing was, it's basically, did the DM see it? No? Then it doesn't count.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good D&D thing, is if the DM's out of the room and you roll, that's usually what you do, is you roll again if you screw up.
But then, like, he had to be honest. He's like, the Demogorgon got me.
Yeah.
And you just felt the foreshadowing, like, ah!
Well, like, having watched it the first time and looking back at that scene, it's just ironic how he says it. But yeah, so they ride their bikes home from Mike's house, and Dustin and Will race for a comic.
And then Dustin immediately gets mad, like, hey, no fair!
I didn't say stop.
Go!
And I like how the beginning, like, that just sets up a friendship between them all. I like how well it sets up their friendship to know who they are. It doesn't do much to tell you, but it's enough.
Yeah. The relationships seem very natural, and it just seems like we're just getting input to a certain amount of time where there's no building. It's just like, this is what it is. Have fun.
It's kind of like they do with Spider-Man Homecoming. They just put you in the world. You know he's Spider-Man.
Right. It's like, we're not
rehashing.
friends. Let's go.
You know their friends.
They don't spend a whole lot of time trying to do a backstory or anything like that. You just get dropped into their world and okay, this is how they are, and you get to learn about their relationship right away.
And then, like, their personalities do come out, too, which I think, like, really, I will say, like, I don't like Will. But, like...
He's very whiny.
Yeah, but it's also justified, so it's like, it's a difficult relationship for me as a viewer with Will Byers. He's a victim.
He's been through a lot.
But, like, boy, can that man act, or that kid, whatever you want to call him. I'm sure they're adults now. Like, but he could act. Like, he's got that frightful face, like, down to it. And I appreciate that, because I felt scared for him once he got back to his house, and stuff got kind of creepy.
Yeah, I love that part when he gets back to his house. It was a nice for me again. There's so many pop culture references throughout this show and the episodes. It was just a blender of pop culture for me. And growing up watching movies like E.T., that was a nice throwback to that right away when you have him going out to the shed and everything. I love that.
Yeah, it's all because
gave me like a Stephen King-y kind of vibe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The whole setup in the house into the shed. It gave me that Stephen King movie like kind of vibe where it's got the dark shots, lights in the certain spots and different things, and it never shows the monster.
Well, no, you can't spoil too much too quick.
Like, you know it's a monster. Is it like the sounds and stuff that you hear and like the stuff that's happening, but it's like, I don't know what it looks like.
And I just like how the light gets really bright, goes away, and he's gone. Like, you have no idea. It's just first time watching it, it's where the hell's this kid at?
He's the next, like, Harry Houdini's like, and for my next trip. Right, like,
but it's a really good setup because at first you don't know, is he being chased by something real or something that's supernatural? You don't really know yet right away. So at least you're guessing.
Yeah, and it does set up the precursor. It sets up the precursor, too, of, like, how important the lights end up becoming throughout this season.
Yeah, it really does.
So it's like, because, like, I'll say, like, everything is so intentional, especially in the first episode, I feel, where it's, like, there's a purpose to literally, like, everything. So, like, they're not just going to make the light. I'm happy they didn't make the lights just, like, flash really bright and then, like, disappear, and then he disappeared, like, no, and then they never use, like, that, like...
Yeah, it carries over the themes it sets up very well throughout the series. The lights, their relationship, even, you know, the aspects of D&D and the monsters and such, it carries over very well throughout the whole series.
Yes.
They don't really give you too many loose threads.
Which is good. So then, the next day, we wake up to Police Chief Jim Hopper, who is probably my second favorite character in the entire show.
I think he is probably my favorite in this show as the police chief right now. Having not seen season 2.
Oh no, I've seen season 2. I've got this entire, like, series practically memorized. This is my favorite recent thing to come out in a really long time. So much so that my car's name is 11. L for short.
True story, we had to break into our car.
We did.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I left my keys in my car, and we couldn't get them out, so we ended up, like, crane gaming my keys out of my purse.
Oh, wow.
I'm outing you to the internet.
That's fine. I'm a dumbass. It's all right. I've done worse.
Anyway.
So yeah, so back to Hopper. Let's stop putting me on blast for a minute.
Hopper's an awesome character.
Yeah, and he's got such a good character arc too, because I like that it, like, starts with him like groggily, like, waking up, not giving a fuck, smoking a cigarette, drinking a beer, like, first thing in the morning.
Life goals.
Before going to work.
Life goals.
Really?
No, but I can say it anyway.
So yeah, so then we've got, you know, the setup for him as a character, and then it flips to...
You meet Will's mom.
Renata Wider coming back full force in the genre that makes her awesome.
So...
And then Toadface Jonathan.
Toadface Jonathan. And this is where they find out that Will's missing.
Panic mom sets in instantly.
Like, they call, you know, they call Mike's parents and make sure if Will was there or not.
Yeah.
And it kind of cuts from there to where you meet, from there you go and meet you get more introduced to Mike's sister and Barb.
Yeah, you meet Nancy and Barb, yeah.
Nancy and Barb. And
like
her boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
cool kid Steve, yes.
No, I'm sorry, wait. He's not her boyfriend, right? He's just a friend.
They're making out in the hallways. That's pretty much boyfriend-girlfriend status. Well, actually, no, they were making out in the bathroom first.
Yeah.
So they were still kind of hidden.
That's gross, by the way.
Yeah, no. I don't need all that equal matter where I'm kissing. No, thank you. So, yeah. So we are now getting, like, characters thrown at us, like, left and right. And now we know that Will is, in fact, 100% missing. As this was also at a time where parents didn't and really couldn't keep tabs on their kids.
Before the days of cell phones.
Right. It was either like, oh no, they're out just biking around, I'm sure. Like, there's a lot of assuming of, like, where your kids could possibly be. There was never really like, do you know for sure?
But yeah, that was the great thing about the 80s, though, is that it was the simple times when you could still ride your bike around neighborhoods, not have to necessarily worry about everything like nowadays. And it was just, again, you can low jack your kids to where you can track them on an app anymore, or anything like that.
You could break into cars a lot easier.
Definitely. You could go into a hardware store, buy all the weapons you want, no questions asked. Just, okay.
Yeah, those radios were easier to steal back in the 80s, weren't they?
Definitely. So, we get back to the kids at school, and we also get introduced to the bully that's, like, making fun of Justin, my poor sweet summer child. And it, sets up a little bit more, like, tension, for, like, the kids. Like, oh, this kid's kind of an asshole.
Quote-unquote villain.
Yes, the red herring villain.
Yeah.
Like Snoke in The Last Jedi.
No.
We don't need to bring that up ever. No.
We'll do that one day. One day we'll do that, because we have some varying viewpoints on here.
We do.
But that's whole other can of worms.
I didn't mean to trigger you.
That's a can of shit.
Sorry.
That's not worms, yeah.
So we have our red herring villain, and then, like, school picks up. So then we got...
You find out they're in a radio club, and that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, right? I didn't have anything like that in elementary school. They're just like, get out of here. Like,
no,
we watched you long enough.
Yeah, we had after-school care for the kids whose parents worked late, and that was it. There was no transistor radio club.
Oh, we didn't have any of that. They were like, get out. We watched you for, like, our 8 hours. We're done. A lot of the teachers were already, like, in their cars driving away before the buses were even loaded. They were like, we out. Peace. So we get more of the setup for the kids, and then it, shifts back to Joyce and Hopper, dealing with the fact that Will is missing. Will! So, Hopper's still being a dead-end cop. Like, all right. We haven't hit his motivation yet. It's fine. He's like, kids go show up all the time. We'll find them. No big deal.
Well, I like whenever we go into the police station and we meet all the characters that he has to work with. His couple of other officers, his secretary, I guess, is the role of the older woman.
I think so.
Secretary / mom, because she's like, no smoking. Here's give me that donut. Here's your apple. Like,
and she keeps saying, Joyce is here. Someone's here. Joyce is here. And he's like, hey, mornings are for what? Coffee and contemplation. I love that line.
That's exactly what mornings are for.
Exactly.
Don't talk to me until I've finished my coffee.
Yeah.
I miss those days.
Yeah, you'll get there eventually. Give it another,
18.
17 and a half years.
Yeah, he's pretty sure that Will, couldn't have gone far.
Well, because it's a small town, kids don't go missing, it's this, he wandered off somewhere, he's hanging out somewhere, yeah.
He might actually just be at school, you're fine, calm down, lady. And Joyce is like, no.
Then you get to see the lab.
Yes.
So because, Hopper, they try to talk, and Hopper's just being half drunk with coffee. trying to contemplate while this crazy woman's yelling about her missing kid. You go to see the laboratory, and you get introduced to the doctor.
Dr. Martin Brenner.
Papa.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh, that breaks my heart. Like, but we'll get there.
Yeah, you find out that I guess there's a missing girl from the lab.
Yeah, we don't know much other than, like, oh, she's not there. And then it's like, she couldn't have gone far. Just like, Will couldn't have gone far.
Yep. Then she steals food.
I love it, because it's like she's walking around in a hospital gown, and she stumbles upon this, like, burger joint with this, like, scary-looking man. And then...
Oh, come on. Benny is awesome. Benny was awesome.
He was.
Yeah.
I mean, spoilers.
Oops. It's a review. If they haven't seen it by now.
It's been a few years, yeah.
Yeah.
Rip Benny. Gone too soon.
Yep. Oh, that was like the first, like, I couldn't believe I just couldn't believe they got rid of him so soon.
I know.
I really was expecting a longer character arc for him.
It pulled a Game of Thrones on us.
Big time. Totally.
Boom, dead. I'm like, oh, okay then. Like,
hey, spoiler alert. Everyone's all about Barb. I'm about Benny, okay? Come on.
Yeah, right. Wasted potential.
I don't even. I'm in the camp of like, Barb was all right. Like,
I don't care about Barb.
I'm not in the justice for Barb camp.
She was a casual. Barb was a plot device. Prove me wrong.
No, you're right though. Because
Barb was
that's
a plot
Nancy.
device. Prove me wrong.
Yeah, that's Nancy's motivation right there. It was just all about Barb.
Mm.
She's the Captain Plot Device of Stranger Things. But yeah, so you get that.
So Benny catches her trying to take some food, but you realize he's the giant with the soft heart, though.
Yeah.
Also realizes that she is in fact a girl and not a boy because of her shaved head.
Oh yeah, I totally glanced over the fact that he misgendered her.
Definitely did. And like we also get just like a little bit more into like her like I don't know what's going on type of like personality, and like just like the way that her lack of communication also kind of just speaks to like what she had dealt with.
Yeah. Well, but even with that, it doesn't go much. So we're going a little ahead. So he finds her getting the food surprised, and then it flashes back to the school where the cops show up to ask the boys about Will.
Right. And
then told not to investigate it.
And the second you tell a kid not to do something, what are they going to do?
Well, yeah, they're going to do it, duh.
They're going to do the thing.
That's why I'm doing a thing now.
A stranger thing.
But still, what thing?
Yeah.
So yeah, and we also get to see like a glimpse into like what her powers are too.
Before we move on from the school, though, that radio, yo.
It's a party radio.
Rip radio, rip.
So many casualties.
That was an unnecessary one. The radio should have lived. I'm going to petition the writers to make the radio come back.
Get 1 million signatures.
Oh, man.
But...
yeah, so we get a glimpse into 11's powers, which is cool. And it's just like, oh, wait, there's something to that. And then it cuts back to Hopper. Like...
You get to find out her name.
We do. Name's 11.
11.
And she's even got a little tattoo.
Yeah. And that's, she sees the fan and she makes it stop. which is kind of it's really cool.
The Force is strong with this one, obviously.
Yes.
Yes.
Then it flashes to Hopper, and he finds Will's bike.
But no signs of Will.
No signs of Will.
Nope. Where can he be?
No one knows yet. Spoiler alert, though. We know where he is.
So, I guess... So, yeah. They find his bike. Then it goes over to Mike at home, fights with his family about it. And we spent a lot of time on this episode.
There's a lot that happened.
Yeah, that's it. We're setting the groundwork for everything. Gotta establish everything.
So, yeah, we're spending a lot of time on episode 1, but we're going to move kind of more into just through the plot here. So, they find the bike. They think Will's dad could be a suspect. Yeah.
Yeah.
His girlfriend keeps hanging up the phone.
The father's girlfriend.
The father's phone. Yeah, father's girlfriend and such.
And we learn in a flashback about how Jonathan was there for Will whenever their parents would be fighting, and you could tell it was not a happy home.
Right.
Should I say or should I go down?
So,
God, music's awesome in this show.
It really is.
I know.
Hopper notices the dog barking at the shed.
Dogs
Something behind
always
the shelf, blinking light. And then they get up a search party going.
Yeah. Well, the kids are also, conducting their own investigation.
Yeah. So, yeah, the kids use their, basically, walkie-talkies to kind of talk about it, to go find everything. Benny calls social services over 11. They show up, quote-unquote. And Benny dies. Rip Benny.
Because they had the wires tapped.
And then 11 kills 2 agents.
Yeah, we get to really see what she's capable of doing, and I squealed. I was like, no way! I was so hyped.
Her powers throughout this, it's just really cool to see what she can do.
Yes. And season 2 just gets so much better. Ugh.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. So we get to see more of, what she's made of, and we're getting to see, Nancy's character arc with Steve, of them all, cuddling up, and, Steve's trying to get her to, strip study? Interesting tactic.
So, I want to kind of go... Yeah, so, and then Mike catches him climbing in the window.
And he's like, I got my own stuff to worry about. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of an unseen
Take
thing.
my sister. Go ahead.
Yep. And then he mentions it in the morning. Get much studying done.
And then she's just like, don't you dare, don't you rat me out. Good older sister, younger brother kind of tension there. So then...
Well, I mean, clearly, again, with that family, their father was very attentive on everything.
Oh, yeah.
No, here's the thing, though. With the exception of Joyce Byers, none of the parents give a flying fuck about their kids.
No.
Not really.
The fact, and we've already spent so much on episode 1, so I'm just going to let it all out now.
Well, I think we're out. I think we're past episode 1 where we are plot-wise. I think we're actually on episode 2 at this point.
Yeah. So, when we're really deep diving, but just, the fact that, Mike is able to have
Leave the house?
person... No, not even. Have a person live in their basement for days and have the parents not notice at all shows you
I mean,
how
it was the
much
80s. It was a different time.
Yeah.
But there's a line, guys.
Their kid came home every night. That's all they could ask for in the 80s.
Yeah.
Yep, they made it. They made it another day. But it's just, like, the level of not caring. Because, like, I mean, I didn't get that because, I guess I'm not a product of the 80s. So it made me mad. I'm like, how do you not notice these things?
Well, see, growing up, 80s, you had movies like The Goonies, where the kids took care of everything on their own, and the parents weren't, worried about things. They were like, oh, these kids got it. They're good. They can handle their own business.
Well, it's the kids and then one more capable teenager. So we almost get the same setup, except we get a couple more teenagers in this, where we've got...
True.
Yeah, Thanos was a good guy in that movie. I forgot.
But yeah, so we've got like 5 kids in this, and then we've got 3 handy-dandy teenagers that, like, offer, like, car and, like, older years experience and such. So... there's a lot.
Is this just the Goonies for horror fans? Is that what Stranger Things is?
It's got a lot of elements of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Goonies
they're
is a
battling
classic.
supernatural forces in Stranger Things, whereas they're fighting the Fratelli mob in the Goonies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
11 would be your,
Would be,
Would that be our,
I can't remember his name.
Sloth?
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, you guys. Yep.
That would be your 11.
hey, you guys.
Well,
Ruth?
And
Ruth?
Dustin needs
Baby
to
Ruth?
be,
well, there you go. I think we can... Credits. We're done.
So instead of Baby Ruth, we got waffles. We got Eggo waffles. There
episode.
we go. There's the connection. Yeah.
Yeah, if you've seen The Goonies, you've seen Stranger Things. There's our conclusion. On that disappointment, we'll end.
Okay. So forget about Stranger Things. Just go watch Goonies. Go watch Goonies. It's awesome.
Okay.
So anyways.
Anyway.
So amongst all of
the
this.
kids meet 11.
And they
Yeah.
find her in the woods after running away from the diner. Yeah.
They
And-
ask her questions.
And, like, Will, like, falls, like, almost instantly in love. It's like, whoa. This girl's not disgusted by me.
Yeah, it's like, come on, kid, play the field a little bit. Don't just, that's just lazy.
I don't know. Millie Bobby Brown's a cutie, though. Like,
It's Disney. Everything in the 80s had to have that Disney element in it. Come on.
very true. So, they meet her, and then it becomes like, oh, well, we're just gonna, like, hide her out in the basement, because no big deal. It's like keeping a dog for your parents for a couple of days before it's like, no, I've had him. I've been taking care of him. Can we keep it?
I mean, basically.
Yeah.
And it's more, and she's, like, not so willing to talk because she's so, like, freaked out. And it's just like, no, bad place, bad men. So it kind of sets up more about what the lab is like, doing to her.
Yeah. And you get the phone call. I think it's the same episode as the phone call that she gets from, Will, basically.
Is it?
Is it? We don't know, but when she asks, what have you done, and the phone shorts out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then Hopper shows up after searching all night, and she's like, I called you hours ago, and he's like, all right, what do you want me to look at? And look at the phone. He's like, okay, power outage. She's like, what? This is a power outage?
That's not how phones work. It's not connected to power. It's connected to the phone line.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump ahead here for a second, though, because I like how skeptical Hopper is of everything until he breaks into the lab.
Right. And then he's like, oh.
I was wrong.
Oops.
And he was
And then-
I was wrong.
And, like, I know this, too. Like, because, like, he has, like, he used to be, like, a better cop, and then, like, more jumping ahead, more spoilers.
Shit happened.
His daughter dies, and, like, then like, wife leaves him, and then, like, he moves into the middle of nowhere where nothing happens. So,
and then all this shit happens.
Yeah, and he's got motivation to be a good cop again. Because he was, like, I think more, like, he was on a better police force, and, like, he was, like, a really good cop until everything happened. So, and then he, like, gets to, like, use his skills just with an extra beer belly now. So, and it's cool to see him, like, secret agent his way through the lab. And it kind of, for me, like, as a kid, like, playing super secret spy, like, doing things I'm not supposed to. That's kind of what that scene reminded me of, but, like, in a serious adult way.
Yeah, there's a lot that just his character in particular goes through in this series of 8 episodes that just gives you, like, a good arc for him.
Yeah, Hopper has a good arc, and Nancy, I think, has probably the best character development.
Yeah, let's talk about Nancy a bit here.
And not me, Nancy. I know we look so close.
So, you know, it shows her at the beginning. She's the outcast girl that the popular boy takes a liking to.
Because she's so pretty.
You know, the parents basically ground them while Will's missing because they don't want anything to happen to the kids. Like, the only concern I have for them is putting them under house arrest while Will's missing. And that's it.
Like, and it's not even like, no, poor Will. It's like, okay, we're not losing our kids. Like, we don't want that to happen to us, so y'all are
fuck you. We're staying home and watching our kids while not watching our kids. They're up in their rooms, we hope.
Yeah. And screw having screens to, you know, make it so people can't get in and out of windows.
Well, so, yeah, they have that. You know, she convinces Barb to go to a party with her at his house.
And I like how she got to the party, too. She's like, oh, it's for Will's, like, you know, memorial thing at school. Like, everyone's super sad. Everyone's going to be there. And, like, it's support for her brother who's best friends with Will. And then she goes to a party. And I respect that as a hooligan teenager. Because I did stuff like that.
So, this party, you know, beforehand she's telling Barb that, you know, you're for this, I'm not going to do that. And she basically does everything that she says she's not going to do, which a teenager does.
Absolutely.
And then goes upstairs with Steve. And Barb Barb cuts her hand with the...
Yeah, she's trying to shotgun a beer.
Here. And goes inside, cleans it up, and comes back out and sits on the diving board, while Nancy's upstairs with Steve.
And I will say for this, poor Barb is like, I've been the fifth wheel, or fourth wheel, or third wheel so many times.
Yeah.
It's for her, I think this would be the fifth wheel for her. So it's like, because the other people were the couple.
Yeah.
And then Nancy and Steve are, like, getting all cuddly. So she's just, like, passionately hugging.
So while Barb's on the diving board, you have Will's brother following, and basically he was taking pictures of the scene where Will's bike disappeared, heard noises, and started taking pictures of the party. Like a creeper.
He's a creep. Do the creep. Do the creep.
Pictures of Nancy up in the window.
He's an artist. He's a photographer. He's an artist. Yeah, just misunderstood.
He still has a toad face.
And he gets pictures of Barb on the diving board, and then he drops his camera down, and in that second, she disappears.
Right.
But we learn later he did get a picture of something else at the time as well.
Yes.
Yes. That comes into play for Nancy later, then, finally. Because when she finally shows concern for her missing friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they end up basically declaring it a runaway. They find her car parked at a bus station.
Yeah, so far we've got Will, who wasn't really missing, like, it was fine, but now he's, like, actually missing, so that's what everyone's caring about. Benny's death was ruled a suicide for no reason. Like, because, you know, cops don't have time for that. And now Barb's like, oh no, she's a runaway. Like, so we've got so many cases of like just like small town cops like really just brushing it off when more serious things are happening.
Small town cops being small town cops.
Right. So, and then Nancy's just like, no, she didn't run away. She would never do that. Like,
I do want to talk about the scene where Jonathan has the pictures when Steve and them can, find out about him.
yeah, and this is when Steve is still a douche nozzle.
He's a douche.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be honest, I can't blame him.
No, you see pictures of your girl. And,
given the context.
Like, he doesn't really care or know much about, like, everyone in the small town talks, but it's like, okay, I'm not concerned with this. All I know is that you've taken pictures of me and my friends, like, kind of in a creepy way, so I need to teach you a lesson.
No, exactly. So but that also is kind of, again, plot device, because Nancy helps him pick up the pictures and notices the one of Barb.
And then she's like, but, okay, so here's my issue with that.
Okay.
Tell me how, in what universe of the stars aligning is she able to pick up every shred of that? Because he shredded a whole bunch of those photos. How did she get all the ones that conveniently made the picture of Barb with the Demogorgon in it? Because that's a convenient little thing that just so happened to happen that still bugs me. Because there's no way.
Welcome to Hollywood. Welcome to Hollywood.
It's just like, ugh, one of my pet peeves. Because they do so well on so much of this, and it was just like, there's no way that was possible. Especially with the wind blowing, I call malarkey.
Yeah, no, movie magic. Plot devices.
Right.
So, that whole thing, though, leads to them developing pictures in the dark room and becoming friends.
Friends-ish. To start, yeah.
Yeah. They figure out, that there's a monster for people. And they resolve to kill it with a gun.
Well, not just with a gun, but also with like a bear trap and then like a bat with a whole bunch of nails.
Yeah, brings the gun. And
I love
is missing all the cans.
Yeah.
And then Nancy takes it and, first try shoots the can off.
Yeah. After Jonathan, misses, all of them, and Nancy's like, nah, man, I got this. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, he was saying he's aiming to miss them, and then she just hits them all. Sadly, it's the other characters in this show do a lot more than the boys do, actually.
Well, no, because they've also, talking with, 11 and,
right, so
everyone has their own piece of the puzzle, which I very much appreciate, because you've got Nancy and Jonathan that discover the monster, and then you've got the boys that discover the quote-unquote upside down thanks to the teacher, and then you've got Joyce and Hopper that discover that the lab is awful, and
right.
Also that so they have their own ways.
So here's my thought as to why I say this. Hypothetically speaking, if 11 didn't meet the boys and continued running, she'd have found someone else and eventually would have led her to Hopper, which could have triggered the same set of events. It's a good story. It's a great story with Stranger Things, but it almost to me feels like the other characters do more to the overall ending of the story than the boys do. It seems the boys are just the convenient transfer piece for the Ark of the Covenant, so to speak, in 11.
Well, I don't think so, because you also got to think about this, the whole part of the episode with the compass, where my boy Dustin comes in and he's like, compasses always point north. So unless there's a strong magnetic field that messes with it, then all of a sudden, so he's able to kind of figure out that there's something more powerful going on with the quote unquote electric company plant, because they're setting off all these magnetic wavelengths that are messing up the compasses, and that's how, what's his name? Not, oh my goodness. I'm blanking on his name.
Who?
Lucas. Lucas, that's his name. That's how Lucas, like, goes and actually spots the lab, was by following the broken compass. He was going to where the needle was pointing, which was not north. So, like, they were able to find, like, where all the problems were coming from. Nancy and Jonathan found the problems, and then Hopper was kind of like, okay, something's up with this lab. And then Joyce was more like, my boy's still alive, and she starts talking to Christmas lights.
Yeah, she starts talking to Christmas lights and paints the alphabet on the wall.
Right, and I think we need to talk about Joyce Byers for a little bit, because, like,
She
did, but the deep end got her to where she needed to be. So, you know, we see her just, like, go from just, like, frantic mom to kind of crazy.
Frantic mom. I do like the scene where she demands an advance.
Yeah, she's like, I've been working here, I've never called in sick. Give me these Christmas lights, give me the advance, and give me those stupid cigarettes. And I'm like, yeah, woman, get it, let's go.
And then paints the house.
I think this is easily one of Ryder's best roles of time. And I've been a fan of hers for 30 years, so yeah.
She's everything. I love her so much. I'm so happy she's back. And it's definitely like she does such a great job. And to be honest, like Winona Ryder, like Joyce Byers, like her performance in this reminds me so much of my own mom. From like the chain smoking to like the spastic nature. Like that was like 10 out of 10 my mom.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
She was, the character arc is good for her as well, because she ends up, yes, being right in the end, but man, she went crazy.
She's a mother looking for a child. I mean,
desperate times call for painting the alphabet on the wall.
And talking to Christmas lights, saying their will.
Yep.
But, I mean, the Christmas lights answered, so, like, what else?
They did. I like how it just said, run.
Right. And like I said, that goes back to the whole, like, light bulb scene from the very first episode of it, like, all coming back together. Like, that was an element that kept, so it's like, okay, so, like, the lights are important, they interact, and, like, light is one of those things that kind of, like, ties those two together. And it's like, that's how he was able to communicate. So, it was good. But, like, her just holding, like, that bundle of, like, flashlights, like, in the little cupboard, like, 2 blinks for yes, 1 blink for no. 1 blink for no. And it's like, now it's like, oh, we probably should have taught this kid Morse code, because then, like...
Right.
Instead of, like, having to paint the alphabet and, like, doing, like, you know, in HD TV's worst nightmare home redecorations. It's like, no, Morse code. Like, you could have just walked around with the ball of unplugged in lights and everything would have been fine. Like,
yeah, she sees the demon and the hole through the wall. And then her ex-husband comes to fix it after Will's funeral.
Oh, yeah, when they find the body.
So,
find the body
she knew it wasn't her boy. Hopper goes and investigates it, and it turns out it's like a stuffed animal, basically.
It's like a dummy.
It was.
And I'll say to Joyce's credit, too, she's like, oh, he's got a freckle on his, like, left shoulder. Can you show that to me? Because, like, she's just like, no, this isn't my boy. I know better. And, like, she's getting super specific with, like, things that, like, you couldn't know. It's like, you can make a dummy based off of, like, general, like, height and weight. And, like, you have pictures of his face. Like, that's it. But, like, it's those, like, small details of, like, where's that freckle? And I think after she asked that, she stormed out. She's like, that is not my son. That is not my boy. And then they have a freak out in the middle of town.
And Jonathan goes back and starts looking at ends up looking at caskets and such.
Yeah, which was kind of like, ooh, this sucks.
Will's dad is a piece of shit.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
He is a deadbeat dad. Like,
I've cursed more on this one episode than I have on any of our recordings since.
well, this one, I mean, there's so much passion that I have, so, like, it's gonna come out.
His dad's a deadbeat.
And then, like, he's always just, like, and he just, like, blames us, like, you know, you're not a fit mother, look what happened, look what this house is, your son is missing, and he's dead under your watch, and he's, like, victim blaming. Poor Joyce.
And then just wants the money in the end.
Right. Like, oh, what's this? Get out! Get out! So, like, I respect her for, like, you know, not falling back into his bullshit.
I like how the boys during the funeral, wait till we tell Will that the popular girl cried. But, I mean, the show itself takes you right through it. You get the scene with 11 where the boys have to basically test their friendship. And Mike chooses wrong.
No, see, and even, like, kind of before that, too, is, like, Dustin, like, oh, she's got, like, telekinesis powers. Make this fly. And then he, like, drops the Millennium Falcon over and over again. And then, so two things went through my mind and my body as I watched that. Was one, he was dropping a Millennium Falcon. So I was like,
yeah, that broke my heart.
Yeah. I was like, no. And then, two, which is also what they said, she's not a dog, even though she kind of is a dog. Yeah, she kind of is one, because, like, she's living in a little thing and they're feeding her leftovers. Like,
before I talk actually about the testing, I do want to talk about the bully wetting his pants.
Yes.
Because I loved that scene. 11 makes him piss himself.
Yeah.
Yep, they get her all dolled up and she's pretty.
Pretty
good. The way he, like, brushes it off, like, oh yeah, just pretty good.
Pretty good.
And she's
later,
like,
am I still pretty? Oh, yeah. Kids.
So cute. So cute. Young love. Now love is complicated. Like, but, yeah, the fact that she, like, and she did it like a badass, too. She, like, looked at him, made him pee her pants, and then she just, like, went, like, and, like, him walked away.
And then it kind of goes back later to the bully corners them at, like, the quarry, basically. And
oh, yeah, that was a great scene.
Mike, you know, he's got Dustin with a knife to his throat, and Mike jumps, and 11 makes him fly, and then breaks the bully's arm.
Yeah. And that's also kind of when, like, everything starts tying together, too, because, like, then the boy goes to Hopper because, you know, you've got entitled mom coming in and being like, we demand to speak to the chief of police right now.
I need to speak to your manager.
Yeah, she was a Karen, 100%. And, like, I'm gonna just, I need to talk to him. And then, like, she's just like, oh, it was this girl. And then all of a sudden, like, he's interested and then gets, like, a full rundown. So, like, that's when you start seeing, like, everything kind of, like, come together.
They built a sensory... I like how they called their teacher to build a sensory deprivation tank.
Yeah, and even before we get to that, too, we also need to talk about Nancy going into the Upside Down. So we get the explanation from the teacher of, like, alternate dimensions of, like, the Upside Down with the flea.
Yeah.
You know, with the very simple thing, which I thought was a really cool way of explaining it in, like, a very simple kind of way. You know, enough for, like, kids to understand, and then also, like, people watching at home that may or may not, like look into multiverse theories and alternate universe, like, ideas in their free time. Excuse me, no. I love the idea of multiverse and alternate realities, so shove it. And it's cool that they, like, explain everything and, like, the whole, like, puncture. It's like, okay, you need something that's powerful enough to kind of break that seal. And then, like, obviously the Demigorgon is able to kind of go in and out, like, to, like, feed and, you know, only under like certain circumstances, I think, like where he's like really able to kind of get out there.
I refuse to call it the Upside Down, by the way. It will still be the...
I'm calling it what the show calls it, so...
But they also called it, like, the Shadowfell. And it totally makes sense. For what that realm is, it totally makes sense.
See, but that's also, you know, not anything that I've played, because I'm on 5th edition. And that's all I've touched.
They explain what it is.
I know.
Pleb.
Whatever. But... So Nancy and Jonathan are walking around in the woods with their weapons for just looking.
They find a deer.
They find a deer, and they end up
dying deer.
They end up putting the deer out of its misery.
Rip deer, gone too soon.
Right. That was Bambi's dad.
I don't know. They said it was a baby still, so it was Bambi.
Maybe it was Bambi. So then, like, Nancy, like, they're all kind of, like, wandering a little bit, and then, like, oh, this hole in this tree is weird. So Alice in Wonderland style, she kind of, like, crawls through it.
Yeah.
She falls down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. She literally falls down the rabbit hole.
Uh-huh.
And then she's in the Upside Down.
Shadowfell.
Okay, shut up. Whatever. And then, like, she's, like, creeping around in that, and she runs into the Demogorgon.
If I'm not mistaken, it's the first time you actually see it.
Yes, this is the first time we do get to see it.
Episode 6, Episode 5, Episode 6 is the first time you see it. It's almost, like, the series is almost done with. You finally see it.
Mm-hmm. And even still, it's just, like, brief, like, glimpses. We don't get to see it, like, in its glory, but we do get to see its, like, fourfold face just open up.
Yeah. And then she runs.
Yep. Runs out, and then stuff really starts, like, you know, ramping up from there, where she's like, okay, so there's a monster, and then, like, her and Jonathan are some party, and
Steve sees it through the window.
And then we get Nancy the slut wheeler at the movie theater.
Then you get the fight.
Steve getting his ass kicked by Jonathan Byers.
Oh.
Yeah. And then they end up at the police station.
All roads lead to the Popo.
Yeah. So then they start talking about everything, and then that's when they're like, oh, we should probably, like, start working together. So now it's Joyce, Hopper, Jonathan, and Nancy all working together. And then the kids are still kind of off doing their own thing, but eventually they all come together.
But let's go to the part that's coming up next right here, where 11 has gone off on her own for a bit, and she's going to do some shopping.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she gets to go in and she just steals all the Eggos.
What did Ego make from this show? Seriously, I wonder.
They probably
Talk about the ultimate product placement.
Well, in season 3, they've got new Coke.
Yeah.
And Coke's actually releasing it again in small batches.
Well, they have a Funko Pop exclusive to Baskin Robbins.
What?
Yes,
What?
you can buy a Steve Funko Pop at Baskin Robbins because that's where he's working in season 3 at the mall. Yeah, you can buy a Pop exclusive at Baskin Robbins now. Of all places, all the stores you have had Pops, you can get one at Baskin Robbins now.
I might have to go see if my Baskin Robbins guy still works there. I might be able to get one.
Oh, let me know, please.
I'll go talk to Edgar. See if he still owns the franchise.
Yeah.
See,
That's crazy, though.
I've got so many thoughts of what I think season 3 will be. So, like, once we start getting, like, predictions, which is happening, teasers.
I will watch season 2. It's next after I watch some other things.
It gets even better and better. Season 2 is awesome.
Oh, season 2 is...
Yeah.
Well, we still got to finish season 1, so there's still a little bit more that we need to talk about.
Just a little. So I guess we're gonna go a little over our time.
That's fine.
That's fine. We're getting close here.
It's been great conversation. I'm not mad.
So, I mean, we completely glossed over the fact that the boys used 11 to find Will in the Upside Down and talk to him, and it blew up the radio.
Rip radio.
We completely glanced over that. And the lab comes and investigates the radio aspect to figure out that she was there. They all end up building, they all kind of go their ways. You have Lucas and Mike fight, and 11 basically pushes Lucas into a car.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's
Lucas kind of does his own thing for a little bit.
That's when he goes off and he finds the laboratory, like I had talked about earlier, thanks to Justin's idea of magnets, compasses not working because of magnets.
And then they all make up.
Well, yeah. Yeah, Dustin, comes in, he's like, you need to apologize. And then he's like, but you need to apologize. You started. And he pulled out, party rules. So, they're still kind of, talking, D&D. With all of that party rules. You started it. You apologize. So then they go, and then they spit shake, and everything's all fine and dandy.
Yeah. And then they build the sensory deprivation tank. They discover Barb's gone. Rip Barb.
Bye-bye, Barb. Nice knowing you.
And then they figure out where Will is, and they end up... So, Joyce and Hopper go to the Upside Down, while Jonathan and Nancy go to the buyer's house to kill the Demogorgon, while the kids are at the school with the mother.
And Jonathan and Nancy go full Home Alone on this house with all the booby traps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a bear trap, they've got tripwire, they've got the spiked bat now, and then, so all of that stuff's happening, and then Steve comes bumbling in after he gets his butt handed to him, and then he's just like, no, I need to know what's going on. And then Nancy and Jonathan are both kind of like, dude, not now, we're in some deep shiz. And they're really trying to, make him not be a part of it, but too little, too late. Because then, and also, we didn't touch on this, was they also discovered that blood is what kind of draws in the Demogorgon. Because Barb had cut her hand on the beer can, and then the deer had the blood, and then, so they were summoning the Demogorgon by slicing their hand. Nancy sliced her hand to, summon the Demogorgon, and then Steve shows up.
And Steve goes to leave and comes back when they're fighting the Demogorgon.
Right.
And they end up trapping it in a bear trap and setting it on fire.
Well, also, too, that, Steve, he, runs back in and he, takes the bat with the nails in it and he starts beating the crap out of it, being, the tough guy that he is, especially after he got his, got his ass kicked. So he's, he's got something to make up for now and, showing him still a tough guy, and he starts beating the crap out of it, and then they all, run into the room, and then that's when they trap the Demogorgon and set it ablaze.
And then...
Meanwhile...
And they think they killed it.
Right. Even though they didn't.
Meanwhile, we'll go and talk, at the school. The...
sensory deprivation tank. Where they have...
So, the laboratory finds them at the school. And rushes them. And you get to find out that the Demogorgon isn't dead.
Yep. The Demogorgon's going around and wreaking havoc and killing people left and right.
And we also see more of Eleven's powers when she takes down a lot of Brenner's people in a big bad way. Yeah.
Yeah.
we get to see the double nosebleed.
Yeah, the eyes and the ears.
Yeah. And then, then the Demogorgon shows it. Yeah, so much happens in the school right here.
Yeah, because even before all the drama hits, just like how Joyce is like such a mom character during the sensory deprivation take, and like 11 was out looking for Will and the upside down.
Her down as she's freaking out.
Yeah, and it was just like, oh, that's so heartwarming. She's like, no, it's okay, and like getting her back into like a good spot. And then I will say, because like I said, Dustin's my favorite character. So then like while they're at the school, Dustin's like raiding the kitchen, and then she's like, I knew
the pudding.
The pudding, and he's like, I knew the cafeteria lady was holding out on. I found the pudding.
All right, you know, a little Easter egg there, talking about Goonies. That's a little throwback to Chunk finding all the ice cream in the refrigerator. Just FYI.
So, Mr. Junkie, I gotta ask. Growing up in the 80s, did the lunch ladies hoard the pudding?
They always hoarded it. They were greedy. Yeah, selfish.
Hey, has that changed? Will be the questions.
I don't think so. I feel like, if anything, it's probably worse, especially because, like, you get healthier foods now. So, like, when you actually get that sweet...
Yeah.
When you actually get that sweet thing, it's like, oh, this is only for the first 5 people of every lunch hour. The rest is for us, because we're already far too gone. Good luck, kiddos.
Yeah. So, yeah, that school scene's crazy, because then you get to the fact when 11 confronts the Demogorgon. And that's pretty badass.
Yeah, when she uses her powers and it's against the wall and everything, I love that. And then she just says goodbye to Mike. It's like, whoa, what's like? Yeah, she's like, it's gonna kill me to kill this creature.
Yeah, poof, she gone.
We think. So we think.
Yeah,
because
season 2 happened.
Sequels.
Yeah,
they made a season 2, so obviously things happen where she comes back. But
yeah, but it was a really cool effect that they had with like all of like it sounds silly, but it reminds me of how they killed Voldemort in the last Harry Potter movie, of like that like papery, like ashy kind of effect.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I thought of when I saw how they were both like confetti-ified to go into the Upside Down.
Kind of like the snap.
Right.
Uh-oh. Worlds collide. Uh-oh.
Marvel things, no.
I'll just say Harry Potter did it first. That's my franchise, so that's... Even though that's not what happens in the books, still mad about it, but the movie did it first. So that's where I'm ending on that. So
one day we'll talk about the differences in the movies and books for Harry Potter.
Oh, I have a really good trivia one. Good trivia one, but that's a different podcast.
That's another thing.
Another thing. Can't wait to dive into Harry Potter thing. That'll take us like hours though, because I could talk about it for the rest of my life and still have things to say afterward. So yeah, so
that
11's
happens.
Gone.
And in the Upside Down, Hopper and Joyce find Will.
Yeah. And he's got like tendrils in him, and like
it seems like a Japanese guy drew that scene up.
Rude. Yeah, but no.
They pull basically a tentacle out of...
Yeah. Oh, and then... Oh my god. And then when Hopper's doing the CPR, and it's And then it's like, oh no, he's also like fighting about like what had gone on with his daughter, and just like the emotional impact that scene had on me. I was crying. Because it was just like, he was trying to save this, and he started like, punching Will, which, like,
The movie punch worked. The movie punch worked.
Yeah, doctors, like, as FYI, PSA of the day, guys. We'll still do a PSA for this. When you're doing CPR, don't punch somebody's chest. Doctors say no.
You want to break their bones and possibly do more damage, go for it. Otherwise, don't.
Exactly. So that's our PSA of the day.
Don't commit murder.
Don't commit murder.
I learned something new today. Excellent.
See, we're all about teaching here on...
It's all educational. It's all educational.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
So, Will in the Upside Down basically looks like a wet zombie. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah. They lightened him up, gave him some dark circles, and made him moist.
Yeah.
There's a word people don't like.
It kind of reminded me of the colorization version of Night of the Living Dead. You ever see that?
Oh, God, yes.
Oh, where they were, like, blue and...
Yeah.
Yeah. Ted Turner, why did you have to colorize our films?
Well, actually, so it's a fun fact. Apparently, like, reds and blues showed up better in black and white. So that's why. Like, so...
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's like, go watch a behind the scenes of, like, the Munsters or something that was in black and white and see how the stage really
Addams
looked.
Family is, like, bright pink and blue and red and all super colorful, but then, like, it's in black and white, it looks so creepy.
The contrast for it. But, yeah, so after they basically pull Will out, he wakes up in the hospital. Boys see him. You know, they reunite. And then it gives you a flash to a couple months later.
Yeah. Zombie boy.
Pukes up a slug.
Yeah.
It goes down the drain, but where's it go? Where's it go?
The water supply.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, like, I'm sure Mr.
PC&J
and I know where this little slug is gone because we've seen it. But
yeah, it's so cute. It's so adorable, too. Yep, I'll just say this, poor kitty cat.
I know.
Like I said, season 2 will be on my list. We'll have a thing like this for season 2, probably toward the end.
We kind of forgot one thing to mention. Whenever Joyce and Hopper go into the Upside Down world and they're looking for Will, they come upon the alien reference with all these eggs. And so there's more to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good way of setting up.
So
we're not done yet.
And then, the destroyed Castle Briars as well. His castle, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's a bunch of pop culture references throughout this whole thing that I've missed. Like Will asking at the end if it's an Atari for his present because he held Dustin the same day and it was about the same weight.
I love that, too, because this was in 83, and that was still 2 years before Nintendo. So.
Yeah, because I heard it, and I'm like, oh, that is Atari era. Like, when I realized it's supposed to be there, because the new season that's coming is setting close to when Nintendo shows up.
Close to it. I mean, that's when the arcades are in full bloom. That's why they have arcades in this season.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Oh, it was so good. Dig Dug. I love Dig Dug, too. One of my favorites.
I was happy they didn't I thought they were going to maybe just do, one day they're hanging out at the arcade and then the stuff happens. But we see the arcade throughout the season. I love that.
It's going to be... I'm liking it.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool, too. So we got, like, kids running around outside, and then the next season it's arcades, and then the season after that we're all hanging out at the new mall.
Yeah.
Like,
it's summer.
So we got the pool, we got the mall. It's like... I'm so ready to make all my predictions. I've been thinking of everything.
So, being that you are the pop culture junkie, what are some of your favorite pop culture 80s references throughout this series?
Oh, my gosh. So, obviously, there's a lot of references to Star Wars or Star Trek with the sci-fi element. There was a not well-known movie called Firestarter. I don't know if y'all ever saw it. It came out in 84 with Drew Barrymore, very young Drew Barrymore.
I've heard of it.
She has the power to start fires with her mind. She can just make things happen. So that's a very obvious, connection to 11.
Okay.
The whole thing with the lights, with Joyce and the lights, that's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, easily.
Yes.
And then, of course, alien eggs that we see that we know are going to possibly be other Demogorgon. That's obviously from aliens and such. E.T. Hello, we didn't even talk about that. When the boys and all are on their bikes being chased by the vans.
Yeah.
And 11 just, bam, the van flips over and crashes. That's obviously E.T. reference.
E.T. references.
Yeah. What else? Oh, well, Will going missing all of a sudden. Poltergeist, 1982. The original Poltergeist. Don't get me started on that remake one.
And they even had a scene where they talked about it in here, because there's a scene where Joyce is remembering getting tickets to go see Poltergeist. Will.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was the scary movie he wants to see. That's right. So, like, the scene where the boys are at the quarry and the bully has the knife with against Dustin, I'm sorry, and that whole thing with the bully element reminded me of Stand By Me from '86 with Kiefer Sutherland played the bully in that.
He did. That was a Stephen King movie, actually.
That was another Stephen King movie, exactly. And of course, we've already talked about it during the show here, but Goonies is very influential on this show, I think, as well.
It is.
It's like they took Star Wars, Goonies, E.T., put it in a blender, and then had Twilight Zone playing in the background the whole time.
That's a really good way to sum this up.
Yeah, it's just got a little bit of everything, and it gives you that taste for whatever you were a fan of more of, whether it was the clothing, the music, the movies that were out at the time. It gives you all those elements that are just, makes it an awesome stew.
Well,
any references y'all caught that y'all were in favor of the most, or y'all really liked?
I mean, for me, it was more of like the elements of the way it was shot. Some of the elements, like you were mentioning, with like the van flipping, it felt like you're watching a scene from an homage to Spielberg, and some of the way the cinematography is done in the chase scene. The way some of the scenes are set up with the upside down and with the lights. As you said, clearly, you get the close encounters, but you still get that kind of like horror movie vibe with a lot of it too, with the way the lighting's set. So it's like set to not reveal too much of the set at a time, even if you know there's nothing there. And I like the way that's set up. So really watching this, for me, what I looked at mostly was the way this thing was shot. I mean, there's the references we've mentioned, like the Goonies, and them being the group. Even then with Stand By Me, essentially, because it's still the group of kids as a friends on their adventure. The comic book references are probably some of my favorite, with him mentioning superpowers like Mr. Fantastic or Will wanting the X-Men comic for winning the race against Dustin. Those I appreciated a lot. Those little subtle things, or she has superpowers.
Right, like Charles Xavier with her mind power.
Yeah, with her mind powers. Like, some of those are what I appreciated the most throughout it.
Yeah. For me, like since I wasn't like I said, I wasn't a product of the 80s, but it's an era that me as a human I very much relate to and I very much appreciate. But the biggest stands out for me are the cinematography and the overall music score. And we've gushed about how great the music is throughout this entire season, and it's fantastic. I think it's true to the times. I think it really, gives it that, that 80s vibe, that 80s, creepy kind of horror, but still watchable, kind of feel to it. And then just all the shots, there are some beautiful shots throughout this entire series where they really just let the camera do the talking to really set the scene, and the way it's been edited and mixed is just for me it was gorgeous.
It's hard for me to just look at this as a TV show, actually, because it's just a very long film.
It's an episodic movie.
Yeah, really.
There is a scene I want to mention that to me is seems like it's a reference to something, and I don't know if you're going to feel this way. So when Will goes missing and he's in the shed and he's getting the gun and loading it up, that to me, I think, At least how I feel and how I look at it. It seems like it's an homage almost to the Evil Dead.
I can see that, definitely.
When Ash's he runs in, gets the gun to load it when the Deadite runs through the door. And then the Deadite ends up actually popping up behind him. And it's not as comedic as it would be in the Evil Dead, but that's kind of something on that I do appreciate, because I see that reference there.
Oh, yeah, no, I can see that. And then also with the way Nancy and Jonathan, with the booby traps they set up and when they're preparing. I mean, just throwing a boomstick and you got Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Well, even still, that kind of gave me, like, I know it's not totally 80s, I don't think. Because I think it came out in the 90s, but, like, that's where... Yeah. That's what that reminded me of, for sure, was, like, Home Alone.
For me, more of the shots inside of the house when it's at night and they were, like, going after the Demogorgon, those scenes, they could have been from Dead almost in the way they were shot. Because it's very much inspired by something like that, with that tight hallway look. That's a very clear horror trope, but the way they did it in that film with the woods all around them and the one cabin, it's almost kind of that same feel when it comes to the way, like, Nancy and Jonathan go after the Demogorgon.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were able to fit so much into, like, this first season, and, like, I mean, in my opinion, it's no wonder it like took off when it did, because I remember watching this season, or Stranger Things just in general, when it first came out, and, like, me and my friend, like, binged watched it in the course of, like, days, and, like, we couldn't stop. We stopped playing our video games together, and we were just like, no, we're gonna watch Stranger Things, and we went through the whole thing in, like, 2 days, and I wanted more, and but it was just, I didn't want it to stop. I enjoyed watching it. Every episode, like, left you wanting more, and, like, you had more questions, and you just, like, you had to continue to explore. So, like, they had done a really good job. I think also, too, just, like, in, like, the editing and, like, making the actual episodes, like, where they had you hooked. Like, the first episode, it's like, okay, they had great character settings and great, like, a good plot device. So you're like, okay, I want to see where this goes. And then, like, from there, it just continued to build and to grow into, like, I'm invested. I need to know how this plays out.
Well, most definitely. And I think with that, I'm going to move to, do we have any final thoughts on this? Season 1, any final thoughts? Any closing things you want to make a point on it?
I think they did a really good job of keeping everything in a good balance, because, like you said at the beginning, how you looked at it a little more, and I didn't see it as a horror film necessarily, or horror series right from the get-go. I saw it as, okay, something's happening, a little bit of mystery, but then they brought in plenty of moments of a little bit of comedy to break the tension, and to make you just have a good time watching this. You weren't always on the edge of your seat, thinking anything's going to jump at you in a moment, and they didn't rely on just jump scare stuff like a lot of things now does come to the horror genre. And they did a great job of dropping in those, like we've talked about, pop culture references and the little throwback to the 80s, which, I mean, it's in the 80s, but it gives you those moments where you're watching something that's a little serious, and then all of a sudden there's the Millennium Falcon. You're like, oh, I remember having that when I was a kid. Or the next scene, oh, look at that Coca-Cola commercial, even though it brings back bad memories for Eleven that she has a flashback on. But little moments like that throughout the whole series, it was a good way of balancing it to where it was a fun ride up and down. It was a good roller coaster, up and down, and just kept you going.
Gotcha. Nancy, do you have any final thoughts?
I just love this so much. Like, I'm not the biggest new horror fan, but I very much appreciate a lot of, like, the cult classics, a lot of the older horrors, and I like the tension and the suspense that it did, but because I just very much enjoy, like, all types of TV shows, movies, and, like, all that good stuff. So there were a lot of elements for me throughout this entire series that kept me watching it, between the music, the composition, the characters, like, all of it. I think it was so well done in such a beautiful way, and like, it's, you know, it's something that I think that's going to, you know, speak volumes for, you know, years to come. I don't think it's going to be a fad. I think, you know, Stranger Things will be one of those things that I talk about with, you know, maybe some grandchildren down the way. Like,
So, my final thoughts are actually a little contrary to that. I do view this more as something that's cashing in on the fact that these things are popular at the moment. That, you know, nostalgia is a popular thing to bank on right now. And that's how I've gone into looking at this series, is that it's banking on things that people are liking right now. Like Game of Thrones has the high production value, so the show went into that thing, because this, of course, came out, you know, about 6 years, 5-6 years after Game of Thrones started. The nostalgia factor that people have banked on now with things from the 80s being popular again and things from the 90s having a resurgence with, you know, people like myself and Mr. Junkie here who we collect these things still from when we were kids. And we're very much that target audience. That being said, I enjoyed what I saw as a whole. I liked it.
yay!
Will I necessarily sit down and talk about this at length? Well, I just did, but it's not really going to warrant a rewatch for me after I'm done doing it for this. I don't think this is something I'm going to be able to sit down and watch over and over and over again. It's just not my thing. The only thing it does for me is hits on those nostalgia factors for D&D and the music and things that maybe are from the 80s that I remember still growing up in the early 90s. But I'll watch season 2. I think we can do this again for season 2.
Most definitely. Because I think, honestly, you're going to probably enjoy season. They've had some time to refine themselves a little bit.
And that's it. I'm willing to give it a shot into that. Usually my rule is a 3-episode try on a show. My rule is by a 3rd episode, a show's found its voice enough for me to be hooked. This one kept me going through 3 episodes, so I wrote it out, and I'll continue to go with it. But yeah, I guess on that note, Mr. Junkie, where can we find you on the internets?
Well, you can check out my YouTube channel. It's Pop Culture Junkie on YouTube. You can also follow me on all my different social media platforms, such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Twitter, it's at Pop Culture Junk 2. On Instagram, it's The Real Pop Culture Junkie. And then on Facebook, it is The Pop Culture Junkie. So any order of those, you can find me.
And I will make sure there are links and handles in the description for this episode.
Appreciate that, and it was a blast getting to hang out with you guys and talk about Stranger Things. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, no, most definitely. Thank you for taking the time. You want to come back for when we do season 2?
Oh, most definitely.
All right.
All right.
Most definitely. Got plenty to say about that season as well.
I know, me too.
Yes.
Gives me an excuse to rewatch it again.
Well, I guess on that, you can always reach out to us at the podcast. Just email us at thingpod@gmail.com. On that note, I guess, to be continued in season 2.
To be continued.